Hey guys, this is Jacob from the Mr. Addiction podcast, and my next guest is another buddy from Minnesota. His name's Adam. He's a great guy. He's very experienced in addiction and going to rehab, battling for sobriety. And so let's jump right in with you, Adam. What would you say, man, is how addiction has impacted your life?
Oh man. I mean, I think that's a hard question because it's like, man, my whole life is, evolved around addiction. I started using when I was, pretty young. I was like 11 years old when I started using. So it's pretty much been a part of my life up until this point. I'm still, haven't gained any, sort of long-term sobriety, but I've been, I keep working at it and whatnot. But I think even before I started using, I had those tendencies. Like as a kid, I was always very extreme, like in everything I did. It was like an all or nothing. And it was always like, I always had that piece where it's like, I feel like something's missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean, and I think that's why these conversations are good, because it's all of us relating on that kind of stuff right there that maybe other people don't experience, because I was the same way as a kid and still feel the same way. Something's missing, even when everything's good.
Yeah, especially, I mean, when everything's good, because then you're like, I've got no reason to feel this way. And, that's when I have to watch myself. In my experiences, when everything is, going well and things are starting to happen for me, that's when I feel like I'm most vulnerable to, try and screw it all up.
Right. Right. And you know what's crazy about that is you bring up an interesting point, like screwing it up when everything's going well. Knowing, right, the consequences, knowing what's going to happen. You're going to get caught, right? Everybody's going to know, Maybe have to go to rehab and do this kind of stuff, like that's really life-changing, difficult, and still doing it, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even like, knowing that, hey, I might overdose, like I might die. And like, I don't know, it gets really scary when you get to the point, like this last relapse was kind of scary for me because it was like, I was doing the recovery thing and it just felt like that was my issue, was like, I felt like I should have been, further along in the process than I was. And I wasn't being, present and like having faith and all that stuff. And it led me back to using. And eventually it was just kind of like, man, this using doesn't do anything for me anymore. And I'm not getting what I thought would happen in sobriety. So it's like my last, usage was just kind of like it was almost like, I hope this is the last time. Like, I hope I overdose, I hope and I'm really glad I did it. And I think I'm definitely like too scared to actually, go all in on that, because I don't know. I know that I have a purpose, but you do get to that point and you get so diluted, like your mind gets so diluted that you're like, this is my only option,
Definitely, and it's just a good conversation, man. Because also for me, and I had a buddy who struggles with addiction say this to me the other day, that you start to think about death. You know, you feel paranoid in your body, the anxiety of death.
Oh yeah.
And then for me, man, this is what we don't talk about in recovery, right? We talk about sobriety on earth, but eternity, and what's that going to look like, and do I really want to die in addiction and go in front of God?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Scares me.
yeah, that's something that I've just recently, honestly, like just recently started to kind of grasp, because it's so serious, like it's so serious. And I get caught up in all these little, trials and tribulations that I have here, but it's like, and I'm unable to see the grand scheme of things. And it's like, man, this is really serious. I got to take this, serious, and I might be in more trouble than I think I'm in.
Yeah, dude. Same way, man. I'm the same way. And during those moments, I find myself just saying, God have mercy on me, and uh, praying to the Lord for help. You know what I mean? For faith. Um,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
and that seems to really help me. But shifting gears real quick,
Yeah.
what would you say to those younger people, maybe parents out there, just anyone in general who doesn't take the threat of addiction serious? They don't think it could happen to them, and maybe they think you woke up just one day and decided I'm going to be a drug addict, and that's what I want for myself. So, what would you say to those kind of people?
I mean, that's a really good question. It's hard for me to answer because it's like, I know, so I had like the opportunity to go to treatment before I got very deep into my addiction. I think I was 15 or 16, and I was still, just like kind of messing around. I didn't think I had a problem or anything like that. And man, I had so many messages come to me, and I rejected them all. It was just kind of like, nah, that's not me. You know what I mean? Like I even had a kid in there who was in there, and he's 18, and he was like, yeah, I remember like my first treatment, I was just like you. I was just smoking weed, and now 2 years later, here I am doing heroin. And I'm like, nah, and that's exactly what happened to me, so it's kind of hard for me to like, it's hard to say because it's like, in my experience, like, I don't know if there's something someone could have said to me, you know what I mean? Like, just because my will is so strong, and, I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's, the core of my problems.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a hard question to ask. Like, the thing that hit me the most, and this is kind of messed up, but like the thing that hit me the most in when I was struggling with my sobriety, and I don't think this is recommended, it's kind of hardcore, but for me, it's what I needed to hear, at that time. Someone in recovery, with long-term recovery, they were like, they told me, maybe you're not done using, maybe you need to go, experience more pain. Maybe you need to, maybe you're not ready. And it was kind of like, that's motivated me to stick around more. And it scared me too, because they're like, and because my response to that was like, I'm going to die, because I'm messing around with some heavy stuff. And they're like, yeah, you're going to die if you don't stop,
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know, that's a lot of people probably wouldn't accept that approach, just because it is serious, and your life is on the line. But, when you have a will and like a stubbornness and a selfishness as strong as mine, it's hard to it just, I guess I just have a hard time learning the easy way. I have a hard time taking direction.
Yeah, I can definitely relate with you on that, and my track record proves it.
Yeah.
Same as you on that. Oh, I guess in that, it's. I think for me, if I'm honest, I'm like, maybe if society was a little more aware. Do you ever feel like I feel that way sometimes? Like maybe if, not that it's their fault or whatever, but that leads to my final question with you. Do you feel like in recovery, maybe we kind of, especially those of us who know how each other struggle, the recovery community in general, you feel like we kind of let each other down, man, in approaching each other when we know stuff is messed up, or you know what I mean? Not to slam us, I'm just saying I feel like that needs to be looked at sometimes, how we kind of just let, like, we know people are struggling or whatever, but we lived with them for 90 days and we know they irritated us and da da da. So we don't really reach out like we should.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's hard because it's a weird breed of people. You know, it's a lot of like, you know, the sick leading the sick, and you know, it's hard to find. It's hard. It is. You know, there's so many different messages that you can get in recovery, and it's hard to find one that has like a solution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so. I mean, in some ways, I think so. Yeah, but at the same time, I think that it's helpful. At least for me, like it's helpful to be around other people that are like me, because I see things in them I don't like. You know what I mean? And then when I come to the realization that the things that I see in them that I don't like are actually traits that I have myself, you know, it helps me to recognize that and like get through that delusion that I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right, because the guiltiest party of all this is me. Like, I'm
Right.
saying, I struggle with the fact that I don't reach out more, and then you hear somebody overdosed and died, you know,
Oh yeah.
and you're like, man, you know, why didn't I say more,
Oh, for sure.
or even be a friend, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but it's also that whole thing where it's like, you know, like I'll reach my hand out when someone's drowning, but if they try to pull me down, you know, I'm gonna let go, because ultimately, like, I know that I'm just as close to them, you know, as being as you know, falling off. I'm just as close. Like, I gotta watch myself carefully too.
Right. Right. That's why, dude, I tell people, like, going to rehab, man, is one of the hardest things you can do. And people, I have friends who have been like, oh, that's like a vacation, right? Like, you get to go there and not work. And yeah, there's some things like that, man. But at the same time, like, dude, I don't think, as you know, people understand all the dynamics of rehab, everything you have to deal with, the communication. Some people are, you know, maybe a little off, man.
Oh,
And
dude, I'm surprised it works as well as it does. You know, it's like you get a bunch of like morally bankrupt people who have been covering up their emotions for their entire lives, and then all of a sudden now they're trying to deal with emotions for the first time in, you know, how many years. And it's just like, man, it could be a real mess. But you know, in most places at least, there seems to be like, you seem to find a certain, like, a rare form of like harmony or brotherhood or whatnot, just because you can all relate on the same thing, I think.
right, and it's in that, dude. I kind of see the image of God in people, because that's such a good point you raised. Because on the positive side of it, like, when you leave rehab, you kind of miss the friendship and camaraderie that you build with people
Oh,
around you.
yeah, for sure. And especially in the beginning of sobriety, it's like, man, that's the only thing keeping me sober is, you know, the people around me, because I'm unable to reach out to, you know, to God. I'm unable to see that.
Yeah,
Especially for me, like going into Redemption House and not really having a relationship with God, you know, before.
right. And then it's so crazy, man, because, like, for me there too, at that place in particular, which is where we met. Um, just for the listener to know, like, this is like, you know, for me there, like, that place was great for me, man, because I came from such a background of God, man, that's kind of like harsh. You know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
that place was real, even though, like, I screwed up there, that still was real good for me, man, to meet people like you, man, meet people from a different culture, and do things that they do in their culture that I haven't done, and, like, just meet cool people, because almost everybody there, dude, was loving and cool to me. You know,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. No, I mean, I still think about some of the guys there. It was a pretty great group of guys. I mean, I was there for like 6
forever.
months.
I thought you were on, dude. I thought you had a life sentence there. To be honest.
Yeah, no, they're like, you're too sick to be let out into the world.
Man, it's so funny. I ended up staying there a long time too, man.
Oh yeah, you were in charge, weren't you? Kind of.
But well, kind of, yeah. Till I, yeah, till I, honestly just relapsed, man. But
Yeah.
I do. I appreciate you a lot, man. Interviewing and people can learn so much, dude. This is why we do those interviews because people can learn so much from those who are experiencing it. And I think in our culture sometimes it's like, oh, we're not going to listen to like the addict or people like that. You know what I mean? Because they've screwed their life up and they don't know anything. And to me, the way to fix the problem of addiction, dude, we've got to like talk to people and find out what it's really like. You know?
Oh, for sure. And I think people can learn a lot too because it's like, man, people that ruin their lives and like, almost destroy everything. And now they're, seeking a life where, they're seeking a life in like the spiritual aspect. Like they're more focused on things that are not of the world. It's like, that's kind of crazy. That's like a weird thing to have someone so materialistic and like literally depends on things of the world to just like completely switch that around. That's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also like other than, helping other people, like it helps me stay sober talking to you. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, because, definitely I know what you mean, man. It almost unburdens your soul.
No, for sure.
Um, and I think we, addicts, man, we're so self consumed, right, that we get to the point where we're like, man, nobody's like us. Even though we know that we've met people just like us, right?
Oh yeah, the terminal uniqueness.
Yeah, exactly. Terminal uniqueness, where we're the only ones, man, and it's just me. And
No one understands.
right.
The pity party, man. That'll take you down.
And that's why, like, I do agree, like, when I call somebody I know, that I've been in battle with in rehab or that knows me or call someone who struggles the same way I do. Like, you're right, there's just so many benefits to that.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Well, all right, man. Well, I appreciate your time, dude, and we'll get this posted up, and we'll interview you sometime again down the line if you're willing.
Yeah, I'd love to. This was awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it.